Welcome, explorers of Explore and Discover Curious World. If you're here, it's because you love curiosities, oddities, and everything that makes the world a fascinating and unpredictable place. But today, let's put aside the exotic topics for a moment and dive into something just as intriguing and, let's be honest, a bit exasperating: the wonderful world of airport security checks. Whether you're a seasoned traveler or a newbie who still thinks belts are no big deal, this video is for you. I'll guide you through the most common mistakes to avoid like the plague during security checks, but with a healthy dose of sarcasm and humor. After all, if we have to face these absurd situations, we might as well do it with a smile on our faces. 1. Preparation. Starts at home. The basics for success. Now let me tell you a story. It was a dark and stormy night. Okay, maybe it wasn't stormy, but it was definitely dark. I, like many other travelers, was engaged in the ritual of last-minute packing. You know what I'm talking about. The clock strikes midnight, your flight is at 7 a.m., and there you are in your pajamas, trying to figure out how to fit your entire wardrobe into a small carry-on. I'll deal with it tomorrow, you say to yourself, hoping for a miracle that never comes. And yet, if there's one lesson I've learned the hard way, it's that the journey doesn't start at the airport, but at home, the very moment you start packing your bags. Trust me, you don't want to be the person who realizes they forgot to put their liquids in a clear plastic bag halfway through the TSA line. 2. Liquid panic, an evergreen classic. Let's move on to the second act of this drama: liquids. Liquids! If there's one thing that tests a traveler's patience, it's the liquid regulation. Have you ever wondered why liquids seem to have this power to make us forget all the rules we've learned? There we are, in line, with a 200 milliliters shampoo bottle, convinced that somehow this time we'll get away with it. But let me tell you the reality. You won't. That cute little bottle will be confiscated without mercy. And as you walk away, you'll hear the faint sound of your wallet crying, reminding you how much you spent on that super luxurious moisturizer. And shall we talk about those people who try to bring whole water bottles? Every time I see someone in line sipping happily from a 500 milliliters bottle, I know I'm about to witness an epic scene. When TSA stops them and explains that they have to empty the bottle or toss it, their expressions range from shock to indignation, as if this is a brand new rule. 3. The Tetris suitcase, when the puzzle becomes real. Now, let's get to the heart of the matter: the suitcase. Have you ever felt that satisfaction when everything fits perfectly into your suitcase, like a Tetris game? It's like the world is perfect for a moment. But beware, this perfection is as fragile as a house of cards. Imagine this scene. You're in line, your suitcase is perfectly organized, everything seems to be going well. But then, the security agent asks you to pull out your laptop. Yes, that laptop you cleverly placed at the bottom of the suitcase, under layers and layers of neatly folded clothes. And just like that, all your hard work goes up in smoke as you try to retrieve the computer without exploding the suitcase's contents all over the floor. The truth is, no matter how skilled you are at packing, if you don't place the items you'll need to take out for security in an easily accessible spot, you're just setting yourself up for disaster. So remember, laptops, tablets, and anything else that needs to be pulled out should be ready for action. Putting everything on top or in an external pocket won't just save your nerves, but it will also make you look like a real pro. 4. Electronics. The relentless devices that complicate life. And now let's talk about our trusty travel companions, electronic devices. If you're like me, you probably travel with an entire collection of gadgets: laptop, tablet, e-reader, smartphone, headphones, and maybe even a couple of power banks to never run out of charge. Well, these devices we love so much can turn into real enemies when it comes to passing through security. Let me share a little anecdote. Once, on a particularly long trip, I had with me an entire technological arsenal. Everything was perfectly organized, or so I thought. I arrive at the checkpoint, pull out the laptop, tablet, Kindle, and feel satisfied. But, surprise, surprise, the conveyor belt stops. The agent looks at me sternly and says, "Sir, we found an undeclared device." Panic. What could it possibly be? The culprit, a forgotten Bluetooth mouse at the bottom of my backpack. Yes, that tiny object I didn't even think would be considered worth noting. The point is this: don't take anything for granted. If you have an electronic device, Even the smallest one, take it out. It doesn't matter if you think it won't trigger the alarm. It's better to be safe than sorry. And above all, don't be like me. Avoid creating collections of electronic gadgets as if you're preparing for a space mission. 5. Perfect timing. The virtue of a wise traveler. Let's move on to one of the most critical aspects of traveling, timing. Yes, my friends, there's a time for everything, and when it comes to flying, it's always better to be early. I still remember the days when I was young and carefree, convinced that arriving at the airport an hour before departure was enough. Ah, the naivety of youth. But after running through too many terminals, sweating like a marathoner at the finish line, I learned the lesson. It's better to wait an hour too long than risk missing the flight. 2 hours before boarding is the bare minimum, especially if you're in an international airport where security checks can turn into true bureaucratic marathons. And don't forget about possible unforeseen events, maybe a longer line than expected, or a particularly thorough passport control. It's better to be there calmly, maybe sipping a coffee and watching our channel videos, a not-so-subtle plug, than finding yourself begging the gate agent to let you on the plane as the doors are closing. 6. The clothing choice. Comfort versus security. Now let's talk about an issue that few consider, but that can make the difference between a relaxed trip and a real nightmare. Clothing. Think about it. What's more annoying than having to take off and put on your belt under pressure? Or worse, trying to remove boots that seem glued to your feet, only to discover you're wearing socks with holes. Yes, the right clothing can make all the difference. The trick here is simple. Opt for comfort. No belts, if you can avoid them, and shoes that are easy to take off. If you absolutely must wear a belt, choose one that can be unfastened quickly. And then there's the big debate about socks. This is not the time to show off white socks, or worse, ones with holes. Go for something dark and discreet, and if possible, make sure they're intact. Another golden tip involves jackets. Yes, because jackets aren't just useful for keeping you warm, but they can also become your best ally at the security checkpoint. Use the jacket pockets to store everything you'll need to take out: phone, wallet, keys, coins. That way, when it's time to pass through security, all you have to do is take off the jacket and put it in the tray. Voila, everything in one go. It's like performing a magic trick, but without the hat. 7. The 4 S's, when bad luck strikes. Now, if you think you've seen it all, wait until you discover the story of the 4 S's. If you see these 4 letters on your ticket, brace yourself, because it means you're in for an extra thorough check. And no, it's not a compliment. Let me tell you about an episode. I was at Miami Airport, ready for an international flight. I was on time, everything was set, when I noticed those dreaded 4 S's on my ticket. What could it be? I thought. Soon after, I found myself having to explain why I had a backup charger for every single electronic device. It was one of the longest and most surreal experiences of my life. So, if you ever see those S's, resign yourself and prepare to spend at least an extra half hour trying to convince the TSA agent that, yes, that mini travel blender is really just for making smoothies and not a secret weapon. 8. Inattention in line. How to lose dignity in seconds. Here's a situation I've seen too many times. People who arrive in line with all the time in the world, yet at the crucial moment, when it's time to act, find themselves completely unprepared. It's as if the line had been just a long daydream, and suddenly reality hits them like a freight train. And then it's off to the races. Searching for the passport, pulling out liquids, remembering to remove the laptop. It's a spectacle that repeats itself every day in every airport around the world. The secret here is simple. Use the time in line to prepare. Don't wait until you're at the counter to start looking for things. While you're waiting, pull out everything you know needs to be inspected. Look at the signs, listen to the instructions, and if you're unsure, don't hesitate to ask. It's better to ask one more question than to have to redo the entire process. And if you really want to look like a seasoned travel pro, watch others. See what they're doing and follow suit. If everyone's taking off their shoes, you probably should too. If everyone's putting their liquids in a separate tray, follow their lead. This won't just save you time, but it will also prevent you from looking like a rookie in front of the entire line. 9. The oversized disaster. Don't even try it. Now let's talk about one of the most absurd and yet most common mistakes people make. thinking they can get through security with oversized liquid containers. Yes, I'm talking about those 1-liter water bottles someone thinks they can bring on board, or those 250 milliliters shampoo bottles that seem harmless, but are destined for a tragic end in the security bin. Every time I see someone make this mistake, I wonder if it's a desperate attempt to challenge the system, as if the TSA could be swayed by a smile and a good excuse. Unfortunately, that's not the case. If you think you can go unnoticed with a half-full water bottle, you're in for a rude awakening, and it's not just about water bottles. Any liquid in a container larger than 100 milliliters is practically an invitation to be stopped. And no matter how innocent it seems, if it's oversized, it's out. So do yourself a favor and follow the rules. If you absolutely must bring a liquid, make sure it's the right size. Otherwise, be prepared to say goodbye to that expensive lotion you just bought. 10. Keep a tight grip on your belongings. We're near an 11. The art of choosing the right line. The end of our adventure through the maze of airport security. But hold on, it's not over yet. You're almost out. You've cleared all the checks, but there's still one last crucial step: reclaiming your belongings. This is the moment when many travelers let their guard down, convinced the worst is over. And it's precisely here that danger lurks. Imagine this scene. You've passed the checkpoint, you're about to grab your laptop, but something's wrong. Maybe a bit of confusion, maybe someone distracted you, and suddenly you realize your passport is missing. Panic. There's nothing worse than having to explain to airport authorities that you've lost your passport. And believe me, it's not an experience you want to have. The key here is vigilance. Don't get distracted while reclaiming your items. Make sure you have everything. Double check if necessary. And if possible, always keep an eye on your bag as it goes through the scanner. It might seem like overkill, but with all the chaos that reigns during these moments, it's easy to lose something important. Better to be overly cautious than too relaxed. 11. The art of choosing the right line. And finally, the last but not least tip: choosing the right line. Now, you might think all lines are the same, but let me tell you a secret: they're not. There's an entire science behind choosing the right security line, and once you learn to recognize the signs, your journey will be much smoother. First of all, avoid lines with large families. Nothing against families, but let's face it, with small children and lots of luggage, they inevitably take longer. If you can, choose a line with business travelers. They're fast, efficient, and know what to do. Another telltale sign is the presence of 2 security agents together. It usually means one of them is a trainee, which means the line will be slower. Also, observe the people in front of you. If you see someone who looks uncertain or has already pulled out half of their suitcase waiting to go through security, you might want to choose another line. Time is precious, and you don't want to waste it waiting behind someone who's decided to unpack an entire vacation's worth of stuff in the security tray. And so, my dear curious explorers, we've reached the end of this long, but hopefully fun and informative, journey through airport security checks. Now you're armed with all the tips and tricks you need to face these moments with a smile, a pinch of sarcasm, and most importantly, the knowledge that you're no longer a newbie. If you enjoyed this video, and if you want to keep discovering the world's curiosities and oddities with us, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you don't miss any of our content. And now, to wrap things up nicely, I'll leave you with a question. What's the most ridiculous mistake you've made at a security checkpoint? Write it in the comments below. I can't wait to read your crazy stories. Thank you for traveling with us today, and remember, curiosity is our passport to a more interesting world. Until next time, explorers. Closing music.